So here we are. It's a Dokaviv webinar, and Mייטה and I are talking to each other, and you all are out there somewhere. So hello and welcome. Dokaviv is delighted to host filmmaker Mייטה Alberdi to discuss her film, The Mole Agent, which had its Israeli premiere in Dokaviv 2020. My name is Rייצ'el Jones, and I invite you to leave your questions in the Q&A feature of Zoom. You'll find it somewhere down at the bottom, I believe. For those of you watching through Facebook, you may leave your questions in the comments, and we will get to them after an initial discussion. The two of us will start looking in and bringing your questions into the conversation. So, hi, Mייטה.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are you joining us from?
In Santiago, Chile.
Okay. I guess everybody's a little bit stuck in their home base right now, so you probably couldn't be elsewhere. So I'll just give a brief introduction, really brief, into your work, and we'll get talking. And our working assumption is that everyone saw the film, and if you haven't, hopefully you'll run and go see it right after this conversation. So Mייטה Alberdi is the director of The Mole Agent. It is Chile's official entry to the Academy Awards and a contender in the feature documentary competition, both. And I believe it was shortlisted in both. So you're still contending in those two tracks. Voting commences at the end of this week, I think, and we'll know in about sometime next week, we'll know what's going on. Everything this year is off kilter, and I think it's a wonderful accomplishment to be where you are, but I definitely wish you a lot of luck taking the film further. So Mייטה, The Mole Agent is your fourth feature, correct?
Yeah.
Your prior work covers topics, or maybe more aptly put, characters, such as elderly women, in a regular tea club, right? They have tea together at the same time every day, or the same time once a week, or something like that.
Yeah.
For 60 years.
Sorry, once a month for 60 years.
Once a month for 60 years.
Yeah. And we shoot them 5 years, once a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have to admit, Mole Agent is the only film of yours that I've seen so far. I've heard your name precedes you, and I'll definitely be checking out the rest of the films, as I imagine most people will after this conversation. So you could also let us know where we could find them possibly. Other topics, characters. I deal with topics usually. You deal with people, such as elderly women, a lifeguard, and people with Down syndrome. Tell us about the evolution of this film, which I believe starts as one project and turns into another.
Yeah, I think that the topic of the film is they have a lot of evolution, because the starting point was the idea of make a film about a private detective, a documentary, because I thought that private detectives were always territory of fiction. And I wanted to make a film noir documentary. And from that figure, I researched many agencies trying to understand why people hire private detective, because they increased a lot in the last years in Chile, and why was the sense of that research, and why, because of the increase of the social network, the people start hiring more private detective for cases that I thought that you can resolve by your own. That was my starting point, and I researched in a lot of agencies until met Rómulo, that he was the only private detective that allows me to work with him as his assistant for a while, so I can see different kind of cases inside. And I saw different kind of cases of moles, and at the beginning, the first fund that I get, it was to make a TV series for one mole per episode, the one that they were training. But it was so difficult to plan how to shoot this film or that TV series without kill the mission of the private detective, because when I put a camera, of course, that on the mole, it will be, I will put the eye on his identity. So when I saw the case of the retirement home, because of Tea Time, I thought, okay, as Tea Time was a film that was well known in Chile and a lot of people see it, if I went to a retirement home saying that I want to make a film about old people, probably I can shoot it by myself without kill his mission. And at the same time was a topic that really touched me, and it's in my career, and it's one of my main topics, how to be old today, and a lot of questions that are on the film. So like my starting idea mix or match with the topic that I knew how to shoot and I was interested in. So that's how the film started. But I think that the point that make the film that it is, it's Sergio, because when I make the research, Rómulo worked with a mole that he was an old man, and I saw the case of the research with this old man that he was an ex-police, so he was super focused on the mission. So my script of the development was super a narrative of a mission and the clues and the plot work like in that information. But Sergio, that was the main character, that was completely on his own, connected with his own experience.
I'm going to stop you for a second because I think that there's a detail that got lost, which is what happened to the initial mole. And how did Sergio come into the picture? Yeah.
Yes, sorry. The original mole, a couple of, 3 weeks, 1 month before start shooting, he broke his hip. So we have to move everything. And Rómulo put an ad in the newspaper to find a mole. And I thought, okay, nobody's going to call. And a lot of people arrives, and it's the people that it's in the first scene of the film. And that was how Sergio arrives to the film. It was not a character that he know, and we didn't know him from before. And he really bought the newspaper all the Sundays trying to find a job. And he always said that he read it like 3 times because he not believed that was possible. Someone offering a job for old people. So that was how he arrives. And I think that in that interviews, he was the only one that, for me, there was all good characters, the one that were arriving, because we're all people that were super active and super inspiring. But Sergio has something that it's on the film, that it was super spontaneous, intelligent. He allows himself to make contradictions to the detective in that interview, and to say his own opinion, and at the same time was the only one that speak about his feeling in the interview, because the detective asked him about his wife, and he started telling that he was a recently widower, and his eyes were full of water in that time.
Tears, yeah.
Tears, yeah, and it was like, okay, this guy at his 80 years old is speaking explicitly about his feeling in an age or in a super machist society here in Chile, when men don't cry and neither speak about their feelings at that generation. So it was like, okay, here's someone like special, and was super touching that for me. And that like open way to speak about himself, I think that put the film in another side, because for him was more important his experience and the connection that he was making, that put the focus in another place.
Did Rómulo want to pick him? Did he think he was the best person for the job?
No, he was the best person for the film. And in that sense, I have to beg a lot, but I was working with him as his assistant. I also have an opinion, and the other I take a super like also machism reason that he was not convinced with the other one that he wanted because he was an ex-police, but he went with his wife to the interview. And he was like, I don't know, because if he came with the wife, maybe in that 3 months, the wife can go to the retirement home and the case is not going to work. And it was like, I was like, yeah, she's going to be all the time in the retirement home. That he's free and he has nothing that to respond to. So yeah, that was like the reasons that I take to convince him about Sergio. And I also tell to him, like, I'm going to be there too. So in some sense, even if I'm not at nights and I will not be on the weekend when he will be leaving, you can feel whether a place is a bad place, like, anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Sergio is chosen. And in fact, you already film all of the interviews. So he knows from the first moment that whatever he's there to do is do a job, do a mission, but also be in a film. That's established from the outset. And you can see, you know, you've got shot counter shot going with Romulo, you know, from the very, very beginning in terms of, so, and how did was part of it also understanding how they responded to your camera, or more, maybe more relevantly, how they didn't respond? Was that part of it because you knew you were going to be doing something that was very observational stylistically?
Yeah, of course, that, like, how do they feel comfortable with the camera? It was important for me in that interview. And when they arrived, we said, as you say, like, okay, this is a job interview, but this job is going to be shooted. Are you agree?
Right.
Be shooted by a film, but it's the first time in my films that it happens something weird for me, because I do not choose the character in the sense that I usually go to the reality to find characters and I say to them, okay, I want to make a documentary about your life. In this case, like, they came for a job and their commitment was with his job, and he has a contract with the private detective, not with me. So when they have like kind of problems, when Sergio has problems inside the retirement home, his discussion was with Romulo and not with me. And sometimes, usually when a character is not comfortable, the discussion is with me on the films. But it was also not his life. It was a special experience that was not his house. So yeah, it was difficult to manage it. And in that, I can give you an example. The first day that he entered to the retirement home, and we were already shooting there and we have to act that we don't know each other, I quickly realized that he started and Sergio Romulo lived there, her daughter lived, so I was the only one that was seeing him, and her face was completely like, okay, he's not happy, like something is happening to him. And after a couple of hours, he started to call her daughter and her son saying like, please take me. Like, I don't want to be here. I'm going to get crazy. I'm going to have dementia. I'm going to be alone. Like, in 2 months, like, I will not be the same. And in that moment that you're like, I already shoot the training and I already do everything like to be inside, and you say like, okay, I cannot convince him in this moment because he doesn't have a commit with me, like, and as we act that we don't know each other in that place, I was not in charge of that. So his son and his daughter help us a lot because they went, Romulo also speak a lot with him. They went and they tell to them, well, you're not going to be another person here. We are not going to abandon. And you're here because you have to make a job. You are not for other reason. Like, we didn't put you in a retirement home, but in that conflict moments, in other of my films, probably I will speak too, but in this case, I cannot because he arrived for other side. Yeah.
But you were probably a little bit of a mole, and you were passing along information to the other people who could know where he was at. No, I mean, you must have been communicating with Romulo yourself, or, you know, finding a way to.
Yeah, completely. No,
because I'm sure your heart went out to him, and if you couldn't interact with him directly, you know, you were spying on the spy.
Yeah, it was a change because of course that I speak with his daughter and I speak with Romulo, and anytime that something happening, I spoke with Romulo. So yeah, I cannot direct him on the field, right, but in some way, and I knew before what Romulo was going to ask because I knew the case, I knew what they was asking too. So yeah, I have a control, but it's like a different way to control.
Yeah. Did you, what did you tell the people at the old folks home?
Yeah, we went with the producer to the retirement home. Sorry. We went with the producers to the retirement home, and we said to them that we wanted to make a film about old age and of everything that is happening here, there, the good things and the bad things. Like, I think that probably we speak about the topic that the film is now, but we didn't say the log line or the synopsis. We didn't say like, okay, it's a molate, and like, if I say now, what is the film about at the end? We were clear with that in some way, but not with the starting point. So they allows us to enter and to shoot for 4 months. We shoot first the training, then we went to shoot like a couple of weeks before that Sergio entered. So when he entered, they were already used to us, and they say to him, well, they are making a documentary. Do you allow us to shoot you? And he said, yes. So we were part of that world, and we were there for 3 months plus the weeks before, with Sergio, plus the weeks that we were already there. And when we finished the shooting, was a big like concern for me, okay, in which point I am going to tell to them the truth, because I entered with a big little lies, also thinking that I was going to make a denounce of this place. But in the point that you realize that it's a super good place, for me was like, okay, what was the sense of that lie at the beginning? But in the same way, I was like trusting that the film was going to show how they were. So we decided to edit the film and to invite them first of all. They were our first audience with our final cut. And then we tell to them, well, we lied to you. It was a film about a mole. And they never suspect. And I really don't understand why they don't suspect. And they love the film because they say that the film represents them super well. And they, promote it. And that it was, a big relief, like that. Of course.
It's interesting because in a way, like maybe initially you were breaking from your prior work in the sense that you might have been entering into an investigative kind of documentary, but in the end, what you end up pretty much doing is celebrating the human condition and individual people and their lives and you know, and the pain, but also the beauty in just in human relations. And so it's interesting to think that maybe at the end of the day, you weren't just relieved vis-a-vis the people in the old folks home, you were relieved because you were also doing the kind of work that you do best, you know?
I think at the end, I feel like I enter from another place, but I finish making the same kind of films that like I'm comfortable with in the relationships.
They say that we all make the same film over and over again in a way throughout our lifetime. So did you ever meet the client?
I shoot the client a lot. I shoot it. She was like on the first scene, in the middle, at the end. We shoot it with Sergio, and Sergio read his report to her. And for me, it was a super important character, thinking in my original idea, like the client that came to the detective in this film noir world with the femme fatale character asking for a mission and try to understand why she's doing this. And we edited with her a lot, a lot of rough cut. But to everybody, like when you put her, you want more information about the case, more information about her family, and the film started to be more a narrative of that than the experience of Sergio. So in that point was the breaking point in the editing, when I had to choose, okay, where I want to put the focus, in what did he live, or in the case and this, or my first idea of the sense of research and that kind of stuff. And the first idea was more rational, not so emotional. So at the end, we take that emotional travel where the client, it was not really important to understand her as a character, because when you already put it, you have it to spend time on that character and to also construct it. So it was like at least 10 or 15 minutes of that character too. So yeah, it's.
I think also, my observation watching it was at the end of, I mean, because she was entirely absent, there were parts of me that weren't 100% sure, was there a client, or was that an excuse for a film? And maybe that could be a tiny kind of weakness in terms of the fact that I was left asking myself that. But on the other hand, the benefit of her non-existence is extremely strong, because it basically corroborates Sergio's ultimate conclusion, which is what appears to be deep concern for her mother, by sort of setting into motion this investigation, is in fact just a way for her, at least the way the film makes me feel. I'm not stating a fact, right? I'm stating an impression. It functions basically to assuage her guilt for her not being properly present in her mother's life. And so her absence from the film makes that point very, very strong.
Yeah, make that point strong, and probably it's more like when as you say, like, it's your construction about that idea, and it's so abstract when you don't have a character, that you also can identify with that, with your guilty as a daughter, with my guilty as a granddaughter, that it's more universal. Because the problem with the client was a super big family conflict, that when you enter in details, it's like, oh, okay, but it's so like, I am not that, like, I am not with that story. And this makes it more for everybody, like,
right.
Yeah, I have something of that, but the other one, like, more disgracey people, like, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it just sort of just that it's a blank page with contours. We all end up being able to insert ourselves into that space. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit about your working relationship. I'll put it differently. At times the mise en scène is so perfectly staged. You're really, it's an observational documentary, but it's so meticulously made. The craft is so strong that it, I'm trying to compliment you, but I will say almost too perfect at times, which made me as a filmmaker ask myself, how much involvement was there? Were you guys just brilliant at being flies on the wall and getting wonderfully perfect frames? Or did there become a point where there was some kind of collaboration with the characters in terms of taking, the sort of, it's real, but let's just do that one more time and get the right, sort of angle and thing going. And I'd love it if you'd feel comfortable sort of revealing those seams of the craft, because it's remarkable the extent to which people are ignoring you.
Yeah, I think that it's the result of 11 years working together, the same crew in all the films, and we learn a way to do it, like a way to be a fly on the wall in our style, because we are super concerned to define a style for each film, and we take stylish decision in the research with the soundman, with the DP, and we find like the lenses that we want for each film, that are 2 or 3 the kind of light that we want, and we put it in the places. And in some way, I choose controlled places, like, okay, probably the beach of the lifeguard was not so controlled, but we usually work in only one location. In this film, in two, but we don't move of that location. So we learn how to shoot them. And my DP always say that our 3 first weeks of shootings are always losing time. So our production budget are super expensive because we really spend a lot of time shooting. In this case, we spent like 4 months, 6 days per week. And assuming that the first week it's to learn how to move in this world and how feel the characters with the camera, and which one at the end are really feeling comfortable, and starting to understand the movement of its characters and of its place, and how can the camera move with them. For example, the scene when Marta is stealing things, I do not need Rómulo to ask him to research the stealing, when we already knew with Pablo, the DP, that was Marta, and we already saw her, so we knew how to shoot her, and we knew in which rooms she was going to enter, because she enters all day, and we know at which time. So we can shoot it because it's a small place that you have been living there. It's like your house. Like, I know how to shoot my house. So, and it's an exercise of waiting, because some days we never press rec. Like, we are there shooting, but my day of shooting doesn't mean that day I really shoot something. Some weeks I have like 2 hours, and some weeks I have 50 hours. Like, it's completely depend of the day, but we are there waiting, not like a specific scene. It's like we establish like a map of moving, like, okay, this is the lens that we are going to use, this is the light, this is the space, these are the characters. So, okay, we decided, and we wait. And we wait in the same corner until that happens. And we know so well our characters that we also know how to shoot them. I always remember for this a small frame of The Grown-Ups, my previous film, when one of the characters is stealing. She's a Down syndrome woman that she has been in the same school for 50 years. She's 50 years old, and she works on the kitchen. And his mom, that it's 98 years old, sent a notebook to the teacher saying, like, she's on a diet today, so she cannot eat anything in the kitchen, and she loves chocolate. And the teacher asked to her to cut chocolates. And of course, that we have been with her for 1 year. And with Pablo, we know that if the mother said that she cannot eat, and the teacher put her to cut chocolates, we know that that day she was going to steal chocolates, because she always steals food of the kitchen. So we spent all day waiting to her until she steal the chocolate in a frame that it was a super close-up of she cutting, and she put it in her bag. But it was like, and everybody told us, okay, you asked to her to put, but it's like, I don't ask to her, I know her, and I know her because I have been here for months, and it's obvious that. So
you're not hunters, you're fishermen in a sense. You sit there and
a friend of mine always tell me, like, you're with a shopping list, like you already know what kind of things have, and you're in the supermarket, and okay, there is my tomatoes. Yeah, I have it. Yeah, and I was like checking my list, but waiting until I find.
So this would be an interesting point to, and it's interesting. The next question was, did you see things that warranted intervention? You know, one is obviously the stealing, but you know, if she couldn't take the stuff out of the institution, maybe it wasn't a big deal. But anything else that you felt that, you know, sort of ethically, it asked for intervention, but you felt that you couldn't because of the setup of what you were doing? I mean, I think I'm asking is sort of when what do we do when we're hit with some ethical questions? They don't necessarily have to be life or death, right? But small ethical questions
it's like daily ethical question that you have all the time during shooting, like a super small sample. When Sergio has the pictures of the Rubira's family, the one that she's abandoned, and he gives the pictures to her, I knew that he was going to give her, and it was like, okay, this can be like super terrible for her. Like, shall we give her the pictures, or do I have to stop that because he wanted to give it? He really asked him to the detective to do it, but nobody knows that he's a detective and he's going to do this, and where did he take the picture?
Right.
So I went to the owner of the retirement home, and I say, oh yeah, like Sergio was concerned and he asked to us these pictures and he wants to show to her, like, what do you think? Like that kind of things that you have to lie in another way to don't make clear your setup. But you can, even if you know that probably it's going to be a good scene, like it's more important like what is going to happen with her. And if she has the picture and then she put it in her room, like everybody's going to be, what is this? And the owner told us like, yeah, okay, of course you can do it. We are going to be with the eye on her, but she's really abandoned, and I don't have any problems to you saying in a film and denouncing that she's abandoned.
The abandonment.
I have been calling her daughter and her son for years, and they are not paying here. So for me, like, I try to demand them, but she doesn't want to demand in the justice to their own child. So like, please do whatever, like, please denounce you if she wants to tell her experience. So that kind of daily issues that you're having all the time that are not in the film. Yeah, I usually speak about the big issues, like how I enter, how do we do it with the release, but it's a constantly thinking of, okay, how, why, how do we move?
Yeah, totally. This is completely a tiny question. It's just a detail that I asked myself while watching, possibly because I'm both American and Israeli. Are there no surveillance cameras in that place? No CCTV?
No, there are
privacy, proper privacy. Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but there are not. And we should. Yeah, we researched different retirement home, and I shoot a short film in another one, and they were not. Yeah.
I'm going to take this to a totally different direction because I want to get to some questions from the audience as well. Within my limited knowledge, and it's very limited, for me, in my lifetime as a documentarian, the best known Chilean documentarian that I know of is Patricio Guzman, whose films are obviously very political. And the next name that I know is Mייטה Alberdi, whose films are ostensibly not political. They're about the mundane and the daily, and it's a very different kind of choice of subjects and treatment. And nevertheless, I'm sure that you're not an unpoliticized person. You live in a place that doesn't really, maybe that's true for everywhere in the world, but certainly where you live, it's not really allowed. it's not possible. And nevertheless, I would imagine that you see some of the larger social questions that come up with portraying, for example, retired people who are still looking to work at 80, either because they don't want to stay home because they're bored, but most likely because their pensions don't add up or something like that, or the abandonment of people, you know, of a certain age or of a certain class. And so I'm sure that this stuff is very much, you know, present for you as well, even though you don't push the button on it and you know, sort of make it blow up, right? Make it larger than what it is. And I'd just like to hear hear your reflections on the kind of work that you do in light of the questions I raised.
Yeah, it's important what you're saying, because of course that I was raised with Patricia Guzman films and with that tradition. And I think that we make completely different films, but they're both political in different ways. And probably Patricia Guzman was an answer or a reaction to a historical moment, or he was learning how to make films too, in a moment that that Chile need a voice to denounce in a super clear and concrete way to tell the history. And I think that that was the role and the forum that he assumed, and that it's super important and clear. And in my generation, like, I feel that in some way, and even I feel that this was super deep for me this year in Chile after the social protest, and now that we are working in a new constitution and we are like in a process that we are elected the people that it's going to write the new constitution, that all the country is trying to understand ourselves, who we are and which country we want to construct and where are we going. And this year, all my producers' friends told us it's incredible how the audience of Chilean cinema increased because people is trying to see ourselves. And with the Mole Agent, I was invited to be in the commission of the Congress that they are making legislations about good, how to build in a good way. So I am in that discussions in the Congress because of the film. And in some way, I think that today, a way to understand the politics issues are in the micro worlds. Like, for example, in Chile, the most highest rates of suicides are on people between 80 and 90 years old because they feel alone. So that for me was a number, like an abstract number that I didn't understand, but shooting this film, I really understand that feeling. So it's like, or in the grown-ups, it started because I read that for people with handicap in the job law here, the companies can pay them less than the minimum salary, even if they work the same hours and the others. So that is a topic and an information that I can read, and for me it's terrible, but in the grown-ups, you see the characters working all day and having $10 per month as a salary, and do you see the injustice in the experience? And I think that it's the experience, the ones that move people. And now here with the Mole Agent, the discussion has been so transversal about old age, about pensions, a lot of people discussing that, a lot of institutions, foundations, political, take the film to speak about the pensions and how active are old people or not, and how do the people abandon, and the role of retirement homes, that they open discussion. And I think that it's a way to make politics from my side, like giving to others the experience, because only the experience can move you. Yesterday, I received a picture on Twitter of all the Berta and Rubira and the characters, the retirement home, that were with flowers, that an anonymous audience sent it to the retirement home. And it was like, okay, that is the gesture. Like, someone is so mobilized that makes something. Like, and so I think, but it's the feeling. So with the experience give you the feeling, not the information.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you an annoying question, but I want to know are you the first woman director to represent Chile as an Oscar entry?
Yeah, I am the first one, and it's the first time that Chilean film is in 2 shortlists. Yeah.
And is it the first documentary? That I assume not.
It's the first documentary in 2 shortlists, and yeah, it's the first documentary in a shortlist. Yeah.
Fantastic. Is there anything that you don't get asked that you wish people would ask you? We don't have questions from the audience yet. Y'all better hurry up because we're just gonna we're gonna wrap.
I think that we make the travel. Yeah, we make the journey.
Anyone? Audience? Going once? Going twice? We have one coming in from Dok-Aviv. My question, as a filmmaker who makes films in which you become quite close and intimate with your characters, do you feel you need to take time between films and an emotional break from this unique and intense connection?
I always say that I spend so much time shooting in places. I think that this one was the faster one because it was a long of days, but super focused in 4 months. And I always say that the last day of shooting is like the last day of school. Like I spend so many time with people that it's like when you're in 18 and you're leaving the school, it's like, you know that they are going to be continue your friends, but you're not going to have that daily life that you love. So it's like super weird for me. So it's sad because I live a life that I choose, because I always choose character that I want to share with. But at the same time, I continue that relationship. And I think that the editing process, it's so long that it's like the way that to stop one to enter to another one. And when I finish, I need a new shooting, because for me, the fiction directors always say that cinema, it's a fabric of experience to the audience. And for me, it's a fabric to experience for me. Like I live more lives because I am shooting in these places so many times. And now because of the pandemic, I'm boring to be here for a year without living with other people. My life is to share in this life. And I remember when we shoot the grown-ups for 1 year, the last day of shooting for us, like as a crew, my DP, the sound, it was like, we were crying because we know that the next school year we were not going to be there. And it's super, difficult for us to break that connections.
Well, I heard that you had a baby somewhere during the mole agent, and so I would say that this was a good year to have a boring life.
He's 3 years old now, so you can
how
many times film.
No, it's time.
Because like babies are faster than films, of course. And when I shoot the mole agent, I was pregnant, so it was like super intense. And and now I am super grateful for this year, because I'm saying now, like, I don't know if I can make an Oscar campaign, like being in LA or in the United States promoting a film with a child. Like this pandemic give me the possibility to make a campaign without leave any date of taking him of the kindergarten. Like it's been like a gift in that sense.
There's a last question. I think in some ways we touched on it, but we can circle back and just make it crystal clear. I'm translating. The question was, no, I don't think that you answered this, and maybe it's a nice way to finish off. It's about Sergio, and it's, did he keep his promise to come back and visit his girlfriends?
Yes. So
and much. What did they say about the fact that he was a spy?
Now, Mira, to his Alzheimer friends, he told them the last day of shooting, but they forget about that, so it was not a problem. And the other ones like really laughed when they know, and he was the one that told to them. And he was super, like, after the shooting, he went like once per month, because it was super far to his house. It's like 1.5 hours to go by the bus, and he take the bus and he went all the time. And now with the lockdown, he has been calling them all weeks, and he's the one that update me all the time of how are their friends, and they're super, super connected. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mייטה, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel.
We have a 3-year-old, no, a 15-year-old, 3-year-old who just walked into the room. Mייטה, thank you, and a lot of luck, and keep making these movies. It's a pleasure to watch them. And I'll just say that in Israel, you can, if you have Doku, you can catch it there on the VOD. And I don't know what the other distribution options are in this territory. I believe that Yes has the rights to the film in this territory, but it's on their VOD site. And yeah, oops, the light. Anyway, really, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.